I'm Michael, and this is Carelifornia. And after having a night to look at the new proposed Republican Health Economic Assistance Liability Protection and Schools Act, HEREOS, there are some interesting things that are leaving a lasting impression because of their absence from the bill rather than their inclusion. By this I mean it seems that Republican senators took the CARES Act as a rough draft, drilled holes in it to exclude some of the most important and Democratic emphasized protections, leaving us with only a pumpkin-style bill. It looks like a full bill from the outside, but inside it's mostly empty space in those seeds and some weird gooey stuff. So this morning we're going to talk about what provisions are noticeably missing from the Republican proposed HEREOS Act and how their absence could affect us all. This is your 5-minute daily dose. So let's make this quick. But before we do that, if you like this information, if you find it interesting, if you find it helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. The first thing that is noticeably missing from the Republican HEREOS Act proposal is any sort of mention of rental assistance or eviction protections. This is especially poignant because most of the eviction protection provisions from the CARES Act will end this month, leaving potentially millions of Americans in dire straits when it comes to housing. Now, for example, nearly 32% of all renters say that in July they will not be able to make their July rent payment. Additionally, not having assistance for renters will leave a huge hole in our society, leaving people to fend for themselves when it comes to their housing. This is painfully obvious when we look at the existing state-run assistance programs like here in Los Angeles, where they had nearly $100 million and some change to help people pay for just a couple months of their rent, and it was all dispersed in the matter of under a week. Helping approximately 50,000 people, this program did, but there are still many more people who needed the help. And this scenario is repeating itself in many of the hardest hit states across the country, both red and blue states. But there is hide nor hair of any sign of additional rental assistance in this HEREOS proposal. Another thing that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is the lack of any specific funds for food assistance. Across the country, there has been a huge uptick in applications for food assistance benefits like food stamps, WIC, and for SNAP. These programs are a literal lifeline for many of the members of our community who are struggling with hunger as a result of the pandemic and the lockdown. This situation has only been made worse by the fact that the cost of food basics like cereal, eggs, and meat and poultry has been steadily rising over the last couple months. Some of this problem has been assisted by temporary expansions and extensions of food programs, like raising the maximum amount that SNAP recipients are able to receive based on their household size. But with the increased cost of food and the increased demand for food assistance, without any additional funding to the boost of these programs, many Americans, mainly women and children, will have to bear the brunt of Republicans' frugality in their HEREOS Act, which they will pay for with the hungry days and hungry nights. Now, the last thing that seems to be more than oversight, and in fact an intentional effort to limit who can get stimulus checks. So stimulus checks are returning, but one of the biggest issues from the first round of the stimulus checks was a provision in the law that disqualified households if they had even a single I-10 tax filer within the household. So even if everybody in the household is lawfully present, like mom and dad and Jimmy and Johnny, but grandma is being claimed in another country under an I-10, it could mean that nobody in the family would be eligible for a stimulus check. And I do see the rationale behind why they'd want to ensure that stimulus checks only go to specific people, but it also makes sense that stimulus money is meant to stimulate our economy. So with less people getting stimulus money, it doesn't mean that there's more money out there for the rest of us. It just means that there is less money going to be paid back into the economy. So I actually do see both sides, but by expanding who can get stimulus checks rather than shrinking it, it means we'll have more money put back into our economy, improve the lives of people living in America. But so far, the HEREOS Act does not change the exclusion of I-10 filers or their lawfully present families. And this, I think, is a big mistake. And I guess it makes sense that the Republicans have created a bill that is essentially the most frugal attempt at putting money and resources back into our economy. It leaves out things that they don't really value or have any demand from their constituencies. But aside from the things that I mentioned, this bill is also missing things like hazard pay for essential workers, assisting with student loan debt, and ways to ensure that our supply lines for PPE stay safe, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. Of course, Once the bill gets back from the Democratic-controlled House, it'll have some of these additional provisions added on. But it is more and more apparent that the Republican budget is starting at such a low level, I'm not sure Democrats can even meet them halfway and still have a bill that provides any real assistance to those Americans who are suffering most. But of course, this is just the beginning, and we still have a long way to go. Now, this has been your 5-minute daily dose, and I hope that you found it interesting or helpful or at least useful. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we here at Carelifornia, we know health insurance. So if you have any questions about your health insurance, leave them down below, and we'll be happy to make a new video or a new post for that as well. So other than that, I'm Michael, and this is Carelifornia, wishing you a happy, healthy day.